when the team fails. You fire Steven Silas. You fire Lovie Smith. You fire Bill O'Brien. But it's a baseball coach, and we don't know what we're talking about because it's T-ball. Shut up. Seriously. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. They failed this year because their approach sucked.
There was an ALCS without the Astros in it. It was back in 2016.
Ground ball softly to second. Keith will charge, field and flip. Tigers win, they're moving on. They pour out of the dugout and mob each other behind the pitcher's mound. What a moment in Houston.
The Motown magic continues. The Tigers sweep the Astros 5-2, and they will move to the American League Division Series.
I want to vomit hearing Michael K's voice say that. I wanted to come into today's show pretending, wait, game 3 is later this afternoon. Can't even do that. Michael K ruined it. We should have seen this coming. Clearly, I was very arrogant and cocky going into this series. But yesterday, Joe, we saw a lot of the same issues that have been plaguing the Astros all year. Bite them in the ass. Season's over.
It's sad. It's sad that this is such a quick run. I mean, it's one thing to lose if this was, in the ALCS like it was last year. But the fact that you don't even get to really compete in a real series because your offense is just totally and utterly incompetent, and the back end of your bullpen, which is supposed to be electric, is the opposite. It's just it's frustrating because we spent so much time. The minute Hader was signed, it was just get to the 6th inning. And really, Brian Abreu did his job. He's done his job all year long, where you don't even have to get to the 6th. He can come in like he did yesterday. He can get one out, and then he can come back out and be excellent in the next inning. It's the next two guys that Presley is awful at this point and unreliable, and Hader is unusable in a non-safe situation.
He wasn't worth what he was paid this year. What are we talking? 20 million, 19 million, 18 million. He wasn't worth it this year. I understand that he was good in the regular season, but you're paid for this. He pitched yesterday. Walk, 4 pitches, first batter he faces. Then he allows that double, which I'm sure we'll hear at some point during the show. As you said, we saw this with Presley, who was called by many Ryan Stresley, multiple moments this season. And the offense. You scored runs on these 3 plays. 9th inning on a weak ground ball that barely got into right field. A fielder's choice where a ball could have been thrown to home plate for a force out. And on a sacrifice foul out that was basically right by first base. That is your offense for the playoffs of 2024.
It's just not good enough. And it's the same guys that are the same problem like it's been all year. And not just this year, in the postseason. We talked a lot about Kyle Tucker yesterday. Kyle Tucker in the playoffs is just it's an embarrassment. I mean, what the fact that he could have blown the game open and didn't get the ball to the infield?
Double play.
It's without Jeremy Pena's speed, like you don't even get the lead in yesterday's game. And then I don't quite understand why. Like, that's what's so hard about what's the most frustrating about the Astros is that it just doesn't really make, I would say, like logical sense. You look at the lineup, you look at the top of 1 through 5, you say, okay, this should be a absolutely deadly lineup. And if you just get any contribution, 6 through 9, you are going to roll over teams. And they've now lost 7 straight postseason home games.
That is staggering.
Yeah. I mean, it's just how this team has become so inept. And look, I think what part of it is, Paul, honestly, is that the offense has gotten a pass a little bit. If you look back to 2022, even though they won the World Series, there was a lot of times that year where the offense wasn't great. I mean, you have the most dominant bullpen in the history of the playoffs. And then the offense is not blowing people out of the water throughout the season. You saw the signs of struggles start to kind of be there in that year. And then last year, they gave us the batter's eye excuse, where it was, well, this is what's going on at home. This is why they're so bad at home versus so good on the road and all these things. And then this year, those problems just continued again. And it really is the fundamental issue with this baseball team going forward, is that the guys who you need to rely on most are hitting a lot of singles or hitting nothing at all.
It's unfair to expect them to score 6 runs a game. But 3 runs in 2 games, Tarek Skubal only pitched 6 of the 18 innings against the that you played against the Tigers. So what's your excuse for the other 12? What's Kyle Tucker's excuse? And I understand that some would say, well, he might not be 100%. That was definitely not a bone bruise. But he wasn't good enough. None of this team was good enough. And ultimately, we all saw this coming. I know that we were cocky, and I know that I was playing into that bit of the cocky Astros fan, which some Astros fans take issue with, to the point where they want to fight me in mutual combat. More on that later. But I just feel like they're going to be kicking themselves over this. This American League was wide open. There was not one dominant team. Orioles done yet again. So the Royals, Guardians, and Yankees, who you own, that's what's left. You blew this opportunity, and you did it by... I'm not a baseball guy. I'm not a baseball expert. Even I could tell their approach at the plate was crap. And this is what started to ruin baseball in the early 2000s. You had Red Sox-Yankees games that were lasting 4 hours. But you know why they were lasting so long? Because every single one of those batters on those 2 teams were working at bats. And I don't know why the Astros all of a sudden got to this point where we're going to swing at everything. We're not going to work counts. We're just going to swing, 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 swing. Well, you're swinging, and you're not even hitting well. So how are you giving yourself any opportunity to score here?
You're right. They've totally gone away from what worked so well for them from 2017 through 2021. And I know a lot of the faces are different. We saw Yiner this year make a lot of improvements from year 1 to year 2 in working counts. But and I get Altuve's approach. I get why he does it. But maybe it should change. It maybe something needs to change about the way that they were approaching, honestly, everything. Like, that's one of the, if you're going to try to look at this from a glass half full, is that the questions you have about this organization, about spending money, about getting free agents, about being more aggressive in the offseason, in my mind, if I was Jim Crane and I was having to sit there in my own stadium waiting for AJ Hinch to finish taking pictures so I could shake his hand and congratulate him, it would change my perspective about how I'm approaching this team. Now, look, they have one of the 6 highest payrolls in baseball. So it's not that they don't spend money.
I think it's top 4.
But to fix some of these problems, the only solution is going to be money. And if you want to just totally retool and totally just dive back in, pour a ton of money into it, and try to fix it that way. Money can't fix some of these problems. And some of these problems are going to be coaching problems. If your approach is this poor, and it has been, someone has to be held accountable. And if it can't be the players, then you should be looking at a guy like Alex Cintrone and say, this lineup, it totally got away from them, what their identity was. You didn't fix it. Whether they don't listen to you, whether you're a poor coach, whether they don't listen to Joe Espada. Their approach changed so much and got so much worse as the season went on. And even when they needed to change it the most, they didn't even waver of trying to take more pitches or trying to be more patient, because it was just embroiled in their DNA at that point. Someone has to be held accountable for something like that. And then they had to figure out how to solve it and what those solutions are.
I don't know if this is going to change Crane's approach. They already spent all the money. I don't know how they're going to spend any more. I would be very surprised if they spend more. And you got a lot of questions this offseason about Alex Bregman first and foremost, but also Yusei Kikuchi, Justin Verlander, Ryan Presley. They're probably out the door, as is Jose Urquidy. At least you would think. But I don't know that this is something where Jim Crane can really change anything. I don't see how there's anything he can do here. I don't.
He'd have to be willing to do something he's never done before, which is, when he gives $32 million to Framber Valdez and Kyle Tucker in arbitration, that doesn't dissuade him from bringing back Alex Bregman. That he has to go out and replace someone, that makes maybe not $30 million a year to play first base, but someone, makes a good chunk of change.
Is Bregman coming back going to get them further than they were, or is it just going to get them back to where they got to?
That's a good question. It probably just gets them back to where they've gotten.
I think it just gets you back here. I think that there's a lot of things that you need to upgrade at. You need to upgrade at first base. They talked about it at today's press conference, but how are you going to do that without money, especially if you're giving some of this money to a couple of guys in arbitration? I mean, there's a lot of money on the books, and you hear all the things you want to hear from politician Dana Brown today at the press conference, talking about how they don't plan on standing pat. Cool. Great to hear that. I don't believe you. I don't think anyone should believe you. The payroll for this team is strikingly high. And, I mean, look, you still have another year of a Jose Abreu and Rafael Montero counting towards the luxury tax. That's $30 million. Bye-bye. Yep. So I don't know what Jim Crane can do really here. And I do get the feeling that Bregman's gone. So there's a part of me which saw hints all along this year and had in the back of my mind, I could see how this thing ends, is now wondering whether or not this entire run's done.
I think the question is it done or is it on pause? Because there's a couple different ways they can approach this. They can either just, Bregman leaves and they replace him with a rookie and they bring back everyone else that they can and they add some guys in free agency where maybe they upgrade a couple positions, but they're not major upgrades and they just try to be competitive. And then into 2025 or 2026 and beyond, when you have more money to spend, you spend that money. You can tear things down a little bit without fully tearing them down, like not going into a rebuild, but there are guys, they said it multiple times today. Now we've heard, and I'm with you, Paul, we've heard Jeff Luna say this. We've heard, even when things have gone well, we've heard Dana Brown say this, James Click say this. We've heard every GM in the city ever or anywhere say this. Anything's on the table. Everyone always says anything's on the table. But what are you going to do with it? Because the worst thing they can do is kind of keep status quo. And that's my biggest fear with the Astros, is that because of where they're at money-wise, because of some of their past commitments that have blown up in their face, that they're kind of just going to stay status quo and hope that they can win a poor division again next year and have better luck in the playoffs.
He's Joe. I'm Paul. Sean's behind the glass. You want to chime in on the end of the Astros season, you can. Up first at 713-780-3776 to call to text. We've got Derek. Derek, what's up?
Hey, guys, if not you, but if a person hadn't played baseball past high school and then look back over the Astros' success and the ebbs and flows and Bregman's and everything. Even Bregman made a video, a social media post when he got out of his car and did what he did. Guys, I know we're looking at problems, but this is not football or the Harlem Globetrotters. Those guys have been playing baseball since they're 3 years old. First off, it's not the coach. The coach cannot swing it. The coach can't tell them when to approach. The approach that got you the $40 million, the approach that made you the fourth highest payroll with all those players, those guys' approaches have been great. Sometimes, we have spoiled fans, but sometimes, and I know we're going to go and try to overrule it and think even higher, but if you haven't played the game, but the T-ball, then you're going to come up with stuff like that. But sometimes the better teams win.
For 2 months, they were the worst offense in baseball.
Down.
Derek, for 2 months, they were the worst offense in baseball. What are you watching? No one cares about playing T-ball. It doesn't matter. No, sir. No. Hold on, I get to talk too. Because here's the thing.
I thought we're customers, man. My goodness.
They've been awful this year.
I'm not yelling.
They've been awful this year.
I don't disagree. Listen, I'm not yelling at you.
No, you're disrespecting us.
Give my opinion.
Derek, you're bringing up the T-ball thing. It's so irrelevant. The past high school. Derek, bye. We're done.
I didn't say.
Sean, can you cut him off?
Seriously, I do not care. We
the
do not play
caller
baseball
in Houston.
There is seriously, find someone in this city that play professional baseball. They don't exist. Find someone that played professional baseball. It's not on Sirius XM. They do not exist. It is so stupid to bring up T-ball and all that stuff. They have been trash on offense for a majority of this season. Okay? In any other sport, we fire the coaches when the team fails. You fire Steven Silas. You fired Lovie Smith. You fired Bill O'Brien. But it's a baseball coach, and we don't know what we're talking about because it's T-ball. Shut up. Seriously. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. They failed this year because their approach sucked. Jesus. People get so offended when this team deserves to be bashed on for their piss-poor performance. It's unreal.
Nice rant. I was feeling that inwardly. I constantly feel that when that guy calls in under 75 different aliases. Bringing up T-ball in high school, get to the point is more my question always with Derek, because he never does. If you're pointing at somebody and you're saying, hey, this approach has always worked, well, since you gave Rafael Montero and Jose Abreu those ridiculous contracts, it hasn't worked. You haven't won the World Series since those two contracts were signed. It has held you back in terms of things that you are able to do. And to your point, I agree from this perspective. You do have to look inwardly because it can't just be a matter of, oh, okay, well, we get back to next year. But I think, interestingly, Joe, I think the way that the new playoffs are set up, it kind of enables Jim Crane to sit on his hands a bit because, hey, as I said earlier, okay, does bringing Alex Bregman back, does it get you further or does it just keep you where you are? Well, I would imagine that, okay, if Jim Crane does pull the trigger, he's content getting back to where you are because supposedly you make these playoffs, you're a wild card team. Take a look at last year where you had the Rangers and Diamondbacks make it to the World Series. You just need to get in.
And it's just a different, and like we hold them to a different standard for a reason. This is not the Seattle Mariners who say they play for, 52%? Jim Crane is the one that told us, as long as I own this team, the window never closes. Well, it closed on your face this year in a really sad way. As Robert Ford, I'll give him credit. When they went to the ninth inning last night, because I left because I wasn't wasting my time talking to the media and talking to those guys, it sounded like a church. That's what it was. It was a church inside Minute Maid Park last night. I mean, it was
not
was
as much
just
praying.
It was sad.
Not as evangelizing either. But guys, it's over. You want events as well, 713-780-3776 to call to text. I'm sure Derek will call back a little bit later under a different alias because that's his move. Gary, what are the other names that he's called in?
I used to just know him as Gary.
I credit him for listening, but hey, get to the effing point. And T-ball in high school.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what the offense was for the Astros last night.
If they hit it off a tee, they'd actually make contact.
I mean, your 3 RBIs came on a roller that barely made it out of the infield. It came on a fielder's choice, which should have been a force out at home. And it came on a foul fly ball where Jeremy Pena is very lucky he didn't get tagged out. I mean, two of those
real fast.
The 2 runs you scored yesterday, you were very fortunate to score them. It was fun when they scored them, but good God. Connor has a thought on the Astros, 713-780-3776.
Yo, what's up, guys? My name's actually Thomas. I don't know how they got messed up. But I was going to say to that guy's point, what he's talking about, the idiot that called in, you know who played professional baseball? Bagwell. And you know who's made the worst decisions for the Astros and has put us in this situation? Bagwell. So that argument's moot already off the bat. We suck. You know what I mean? And there ain't no amount of T-ball or high school baseball that's going to change anybody else's opinion on that. So that just trumps him. I love you guys. Joe, way to stand up to the man. I'm going to hang up and listen.
Thank you, Tom/Connor.
I appreciate it too, Joe. I needed that. Because normally I'm just playful with him. But
no, I can't. I can't do it.
He finally came out.
It just happens sometimes. It's just like, you bring up the T-ball thing. Look, I played baseball, so I was in 3rd grade, okay, Derek?
I was a great T-ball player.
I didn't wear my glasses, so I never had a hit. I couldn't see the ball until it crossed the plate, but I played.
Yeah, I think for the rest of the day, if you're going to talk about the Astros, you need to drop your baseball bona fides.
Oh, yeah.
So,
hey, what's on the back of your baseball card?
As someone who played baseball in 7th and 8th grade, let me tell you. I'm not impressed with what I've seen from Kyle Tucker the last couple of years.
As someone who was statistician for my baseball team in 7th grade and undeservedly on the team, I could tell you that Kyle Tucker's stats are bad and should be better. And they've been bad for 3 straight postseasons.
Yeah.
Don has a thought on the Astros. Season is over. 713-780-3776. You're on Gallant and George. What's up?
Yeah, I was calling about this end of the season, man. I was very disappointed with the effort. I don't know why we can't win a home game.
That is crazy. 7 straight home losses.
Right. I mean, it's ridiculous. And there's nobody to point the finger at upper management. I mean, the effort all the way around, it's just horrible. And I hate to say it, but Bregman's gone. He's not coming back.
Does feel that way. He did have a tweet after the game at about 7:12 p.m. for those who didn't see that just said, "Thank you, Houston. I had set up shop in the locker room after the game was done and was directly in front of him. And I asked him this question about, hey, I mean, that last moment where the fans are cheering, hey, how did you feel if that's potentially the last time? Here's what he had to say on that. Do we have that, Sean?
Well, if it is, it was obviously it was a big moment in the game, but unfortunately we didn't come out on top. Well, if it is.
So after that moment, after I asked that question, I felt like the vibe of the interview changed, and Bregman was looking down at the ground for a little bit, and I was like, oh, damn. I felt bad. I think it was going through his head. You could hear him starting to answer it there, and then he paused, and he said, like, well, it didn't help us. And the rest of the interview, there was it was a somber tone. He did chuckle at one point because he kept on getting asked the same question about his future. He was wearing an Astros hat.
Shout out to him.
Unlike Garrett Cole.
I'm so glad we don't have to deal with that. With
I am
Alex Bregman.
too. I don't think he ever would have done that, though. I mean, Cole did not have that long of a relationship with this city. For Bregman, I mean, he has been here his entire career. So I wish him the best. He did play well, I think, in this postseason. I thought his at-bats, at least, were the most productive. One last call before we go to our first break. We've got another Don at 713-780-3776. Don, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Let's just be realistic when we're talking about the Astros this year. Everybody knows we did not deserve to be in the playoffs this year. So why are we mad? Why are we disappointed when we know we shouldn't have been there in the first place? I worked in 2022. I was at the World Series game, and the energy, the fans, everybody brung it. But the first game, playoff game, I was there this year, it was dead. Everybody knew. And let's be honest with ourselves as Astros fans and as Houstonians, we did not belong. We did not need to be in the playoffs this year. And let's just admit it. Alex Bregman is gone. Jim Crane needs to open up his wallet and spend the money to build the future that he said he's going to continue to do. But I don't think he's going to do it. So everybody, the change, the Astros, the sports scene in Houston is about to change. It's going to be all about the Texans because I believe the Astros are done. That's all I got to say. Yeah, have a good day.
Appreciate it, Don.
You know, my only pushback to that, honestly, of like why like the expectations are still there is because of what the Astros have done in their past.
It's 7 straight ALCS. That's why the expectations are there. I mean,
2020.
2020,
right,
they literally were only in the playoffs because they gave extra playoff seeding because of a 60-game season, and they were one game away from the World Series. So like they've been there, done that. We've seen this Astros team beat down out and down bad and have struggle moments and then find a way to win. I mean, hell, even the year they won the World Series. I mean, look what they did against Seattle. You got a walk-off home run from Yordan Alvarez. You got an 18-inning game the next day or 2 days later. Like, you're grinding through this ALDS versus the Mariners, a series you could have easily lost just based off a couple small different things, a game of inches, like what happened in Game 1. That's why there's still a belief in this team, because it's still Jose Altuve. It's still Alex Bregman. It's still Yordan Alvarez. And that's why next year the standard is, no matter what happens, they're going to win the AL West. Because, yeah, we have to lower our standard. You can't say they're auto back to the ALCS anymore. But until they lose the AL West, they're still the Kings of the West. Those are my expectations for 2025. That doesn't change at all.